This morning, we'll talk about the woman's role in the church, in society, and in the family. Without any controversies, we'll just define the role, and however you thought coming in, maybe it'll change it on your way out. I want you to be open-minded about it. Just listen and see if we match. What is the woman's role and male role have obviously changed, and things are developing all the time. What a man is, what a woman is. In fact, with LGBT and transgender stuff, you don't even you got to really pay attention to know what bathroom to go into. When I grew up, a male is a male and a female is a female. There was no 80% and 20% or something. As a matter of fact, even in the ranks, there's some disparity about the equality of men and women. We are different. Men and women are different in some respects, but obviously we're the same in some respects. Martina Navratilova, do you know her? She was one of the all-time great tennis players in the late 70s, 80s, and early 90s. In fact, she was voted the best female tennis player in the world. A couple years ago, she married a woman and has been the spokesperson for the LGBT people. However, 2 weeks ago, she came out and said that she doesn't believe that transvestite men should compete in women's sports, professional sports. They have an unfair advantage. They're male. To which we all understand that, I think, except for the LGBT people said, "Oh, you're fired. You can no longer be our spokesperson if you believe that men and women are different, even to that respect, that they're physically different in sports." Again, I grew up, heroes were, John Wayne, or, real men and real women, and the difference in the divisiveness and all that stuff. There was what we call the Battle of the Sexes on September 20th, 1973. Anybody know what the Battle of the Sexes was? Yep. Bobby Riggs and Billie Jean King. What happened is Bobby Riggs was 55 years old, and he was a tennis pro, and he won Wimbledon, some 27 years earlier. Challenged women. He in fact, he used to wear a t-shirt that says, "America's #1 male chauvinist pig." And he felt like even at 55, he could still whoop the best woman athlete on the tennis court. And so he challenged Billie Jean King, who rebuked his challenge, wasn't going to take it up. And so one of the other high-ranking female tennis pros at the time, Margaret Court, said that she would take up his challenge. And so in May of 73, they had this match, and Bobby Riggs destroyed her. Three sets, wham, wham, wham. And so that just brought, fuel to the fire of men are better than women and all that. Even a 55-year-old man can whip up with these young girls, 25 years, his junior. As most guys know, and women, Bobby Riggs finally enticed Billie Jean King to a match, and it was titled, the Battle of the Sexes. On September 20th was the bout. It was held in the Astrodome in Houston, Texas. It was a $100,000 winner-take-all. Loser gets nothing. That $100,000 in today's money would be about $650,000 for an afternoon of hitting that ball across the net. An estimated 90 million people from around the world watched this Battle of the Sexes. Who won? Billie Jean. Yeah, Billie Jean. Billie Jean King won. She whooped him 3 in a row. Boom, boom, boom. Does that mean women are better than men? Does that mean maybe younger women are better than older men, at least at tennis? Right? What does that mean? What did all of that hype mean? Where did You're probably like, what is in the world? Is this social studies or is this, church, right? The reason I'm bringing it up is Judges chapter 4 and 5, is which what we're going to be talking about, has a woman leader in Israel whose name is Deborah. She is a judge in Israel. When I study every week, I look at what commentators have to say, different commentaries from lots of different people, 3, 4, 5, 6 different places. And they were split on the role of Deborah as leader in the nation of Israel, because women don't lead, men do. Is that correct? I'm not going to look to see who said yes. So there's this, what is their place? What is their position? What is their role in a church? Can a woman be ordained and a minister in a church? Can she teach Sunday school? Can she be a board member? What does the Bible say? What does God say? What does man say? And there's some confusion about all of that. I'm going to address all of that to your satisfaction today, maybe. A week ago, we had a ministers' meeting with all the churches in the area. There are 8 churches represented. Of the 8 churches, they're split in half. 4 ordain women, 4 will not ordain women. They will not allow them to teach Sunday school to men. They can teach Sunday school to adult women or to children, but not to men. That is the leadership, that is putting the woman over the man. You can believe that or not believe it, it doesn't make any difference. I'm just going to try to look for a back door before this is over, maybe, and get out of here with my head on. Women in ministry or leaders is really how you look at the Bible, and you have to come up to your own decision. Okay? Obviously, some theologians, some churches say absolutely not, and some agree. Our church, the Assembly of God Church, have ordained women for decades. They've allowed women. They believe if they want to ordain a male, unless you can tell them that God is called, and you can give them how God called you into the ministry. Okay, I had to explain how God called me into the ministry, how I felt God wanted. A woman has to do the exact same thing, and if a woman calls a man, or God calls a man, or God calls a woman, what difference does that make? Can't God anoint one the same as the other? It really is the point. So, a reminder of one woman in particular in the Bible, Sarah. Abraham's wife, Sarah. Abraham was a friend of God. God many times spoke to Abraham, right? We know what visions he spoke to him. In person he spoke to him before he went to Sodom and Gomorrah. We know that, right? However, when Abraham had his son Ishmael, and Ishmael was 13 years old, and now Abraham also had his second son, Isaac. It was Sarah who told Abraham, her husband, that he had to toss Ishmael and his mom out. Ishmael was Abraham's son. What should have happened is when Abraham died, they would have split all of his belongings into 3. Ishmael, as the oldest male, would have received 2/3 of the portion, a double portion, and Isaac should have received 1/3 of all of the wealth of Abraham. However, Sarah said, this son of the slave woman shall have no inheritance with my son. And Abraham, the friend of God, right? Abraham had a problem with that. He didn't want to cast his son out. God says to Abraham, listen to Sarah on this matter. Sarah's right. So that didn't make Sarah the leader of the house necessarily, but certainly in this case, he was supposed to listen to his wife about this very spiritual matter that was taking place. I'm just throwing that up to you because women have a voice. They have, on equal basis, I would say, with God in the family as well. We know that Miriam was a judge, not a judge, but a prophet and a leader in Israel during the time of Moses and Aaron. All 3 of them, it seems like, co-led all of Israel. Although obviously Moses was kind of like the chief judge, but certainly they all had leadership positions. Judges chapter 4 starts off that the sons of Israel again did evil in the sight of the Lord after Ehud died. We talked about Ehud 2 weeks ago, the left-handed judge who killed the big fat king, remember? The Lord sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. And the commander of his army was Sisera, who lived in Oshkosh-Bigosh. And the sons of Israel cried to the Lord, for he had 900 iron chariots, and he oppressed the sons of Israel severely for 20 years. Now Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth, was judging Israel at that time. And she used to sit under the palm tree of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim. And the sons of Israel came up to her for judgment. Now she sent and summoned Barak, the son of Abinoam, from Kadesh Naphtali, and said to him, Behold, the Lord, the God of Israel, has commanded, Go and march to Mount Tabor, and take with you 10,000 men from the sons of Naphtali and from the sons of Zebulun. And I will draw out to you Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his many troops, to the river Kishon. And I will give him into your hand. Then Barak said to her, If you will go with me, then I will go. But if you will not go with me, I will not go. And she said, I will surely go with you. Nevertheless, the honor shall not be yours on the journey that you are about to take. For the Lord will sell Sisera into the hands of a woman. Then Deborah arose and went with Barak to Kadesh. And Barak called Zebulun and Naphtali together to Kadesh, and 10,000 men went up with him. Deborah also went up with him. So, obviously this is another cycle of where Israel was. Under Ehud, they had 80 years of peace, his judging, his leadership. Obviously, again, they became comfortable. They started worshiping other gods and doing things that they shouldn't have been doing. And God allowed the people from the north, the Canaanites from the north, to come down and whoop up on Israel. 20 years of being severely oppressed by a nation that should have been utterly destroyed by the Israelites. They, in fact, had them forced laborers for a while, and now the slaves that were forced laborers are now the masters in Israel over the Israelites. Deborah is a wife. She is a prophetess, which means she's been given some gift from God, a special anointing from God, that obviously the people, the men and women of Israel noticed. There's something about her. Certainly God's hand is upon her. She has a special anointing from God. Not unlike when Moses had 70 of his elders come, and he laid hands, and the Holy Spirit came on those 70 men, and then they too were leaders and judged the people of Israel. The very difficult things, the things that they couldn't judge, were brought to Moses, but the everyday things went to these 70 leaders. 70 leaders who were leading, 3 million people had this gift to be able to discern right from wrong, good from evil. What does God want in my life, okay? That was Deborah. It says that she was a judge, that she judged Israel. And they have Barak. Now I know in other men it says that God raised him up to judge Israel. He judged Israel for 20 years or whatever, or there was peace for a certain period of time. In this particular case, it says that she judged, but Barak is also plays a part in this. Is Barak the leader of Israel, or is Deborah the leader of Israel? That's where we part ways with different commentators. Some people say, no, she's obviously the leader. She's raised up to that place of judgment. And others like, no, Barak is the leader. He leads the military. In the wilderness, there was a number of battles that took place where Joshua led the army and defeated the Amorites. But Moses was the judge of Israel. So who was the leader in Israel? Joshua, the leader of the army, or Moses, the leader of all Israel, right? There's not even a question. We believe that Moses, as the judge, was also the leader. And Joshua was also a leader, but the military leader. It seems like this is sort of the same relationship. She summons Barak. So again, if God was going to raise Barak up to be the leader, why didn't God do that like he did to other male leaders in Israel? That God called Barak and said, Barak, I've got this for you to do. But God didn't do that. God went through Deborah. Deborah says God has commanded. So make no mistake, this isn't Deborah's idea. This isn't anything built of the flesh. This is a plan by God as the judge of God. Deborah sees, and she's just being obedient to bring it to the person that God wanted her to bring it to, which is Barak. No, she is about 100 miles south of Hazor, where Sisera and his army is. He's by the Sea of Galilee. He's about 100 miles from Jerusalem, Ramah, Bethel, that area where Deborah and Barak are. What the plan is for 10,000 men, Barak leading 10,000 men, 75 miles to a mountainous area, to Mount Tabor, where God is going, and then they're going to go to the Kishon River, which is a nice flat river area. God's going to entice the armies led by Sisera to come and have battle with Israel. 900 iron chariots, which is like a tank. I don't care how many infantrymen you have, great, sharpshooters or whatever, great fighting men, but you bring a tank in the midst of all of that, they're pretty disruptive. He's got 900 small kind of tank-like things in these iron chariots, ready to destroy people. In fact, that's all they needed to destroy all of Israel. And God wants Barak to lead just 10,000 men, a pretty small army, against the army, this vast army of the Canaanites, with not only technology, but a vast army of well-equipped soldiers. Plus, they're going to be meeting in a river bottom. If I was asked to put up a plan to try to defeat the enemy, I would have guerrilla warfare from the mountains or the woods. That way you take away the chariots. They don't do too well in the mountains, right? They can't navigate in the wooded area. So I can set up there. I'd have a much better chance of taking away their strength in the chariots. But God says, no, I'm going to entice them to come in this nice flat level area, and there's where you're going to have a battle. So if I was Barak, I would understand his hesitancy to want to just jump up and go, great plan, 10,000 unarmed men to go up against an army of well-equipped men with 900 chariots in this nice flat area to their advantage. I can understand, right? Plus, they have to march 75 miles to the Mount Tabor. Sisera is about a 25-mile march. So, advantage all the way around the Canaanites, right? Except for God told them, this is God's plan. And in my mind, why did Barak go, oh, God has called me to do this, to help deliver the nation of Israel by these people, this group? I would be, wow, what an awesome thing. Be humble and accept the ministry God has given you and go out believing it's from God, so we'll see success, right? Just like he's done many times in the past with other leaders, God's going to give them into your hand. It's always been accurate before, why wouldn't it be again, right? Right? God doesn't change his mind. Instead of being strong and of good courage, he kind of wussies out and says, I don't know about that. I'll tell you what, if you go with me, then I'll go. Otherwise, I'm not going. Not hardly leadership qualities in my mind. His response is almost identical to Zechariah's response. You know Elizabeth and Zechariah in the book of Luke, John the Baptist's dad. Elizabeth had no children. Zechariah goes into the temple with an offering, and Gabriel, an angel, appears to Zechariah and says, Zechariah, guess what? I've got some really great news. Your wife Elizabeth is going to have a baby. His name's going to be John. He's going to be the forerunner before Jesus Christ comes on the scene, the Savior, the Messiah. He's going to have a great ministry. This is really good news for you, Zechariah. You're going to be the father of John the Baptist. And Zechariah does it like, yeah, this is awesome. He's like, how can this be? I don't know about that. She's pretty old. She can't have kids anymore. I mean, and the angel's a little angry with his unbelief. And says to Zechariah, you know, first of all, can I just say, if I was ever up here and praying during the week or something, and guy stood up here and I'm Gabriel, I stand before God, I'd probably believe what he had to say. So if it happens to you, I mean, probably. I am Gabriel, he says, I stand in the presence of God, and I tell you this good news, but you are going to be silent now. You won't be able to speak from now until the day it happens because of your unbelief. You did not believe my words. And so in Barak's case, even though he's going to go out because Deborah is going to go with him, he's not going to get the victory and the glory of that battle like he could have had. It's going to go to somebody else. It's going to go to a woman named Jael, which we'll look at next week. Jael in Judges 5:24 is called most blessed of women. So, do you think Deborah led or Barak is the leader of Israel? What is a woman's role and position in society, in politics, in the home, in the church? What is it? I'm going to tell you. Genesis 1:27 says that God created mankind in his image. That God created them male and female in his image. So God, seems like, doesn't see any inequality there. Doesn't say he made man superior, women inferior, or vice versa. He made them in his image. There's no inferior in God's image. And then he said to them both, he said, you are blessed. I want you to be fruitful. I want you to multiply. I give you all the seed-bearing plants and all created things I give to them, male and female. Not trying to divide them or anything. He gives the whole world that he created to men and women. So know the obvious. So when did men and women become different? When did society look at them differently, one over the other? Because of sin, right? Genesis 3:16 and 17. Serpent came, the woman, the man, they both sinned. They both broke the covenant relationship that God gave them. And so God talks to them and says to the woman, remember they both made excuses? The man, why did you sin? Well, the woman gave me. Why did you sin? It was a serpent. He's pretty tricky. So God says to the woman, I'm going to make your pains in childbearing very severe. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. Right, men? We will rule over them. Amen. That's I'll tell you what, if I ended that, I would never make it home. Or I'd have to sleep with one eye open. Just kidding. To Adam he said, because you listened to your wife and ate fruit from the tree which I commanded you, you must not eat from it. Cursed is the ground because of you. So obviously that means, husbands, never listen to your wife. Isn't that what Scripture could say? I'm, again, just fooling around, just throwing some things out there, seeing where they land. Thud, thud, thud. Let me tell you what rule over you means. looked at the Hebrew, what that means. It does not mean submit. It means you will follow his lead. Remember, Adam followed Eve's lead. When she partook, he partook. God said, from now on, that ain't going to happen. You can't use your wife as an excuse. You are to lead, and she needs to follow your lead. That's ruling over. That's what submission means. Now, apparently, they're of equal, there's some equality. That didn't mean, by the way, that's in the family. That's husbands and wives. That is not males and females. Right? If you're single male, single female, whatever, that has nothing to do with that relationship. This is the family relationship. Women are going to have pain in childbirth, and you need to follow your husband. And the husband, you're going to, the ground is cursed. You're going to have to toil for a living. You're the one who's going to have to, But there's more for the men. I know that Paul says, husbands and wives, wives, submit to your husband. Husbands, love your wife like Christ loved the church. And so they take wives submitting to your husband as whatever he says you obey like a dog. I mean, in some circles. You submit to his word. You submit to everything he has to say. Everything he's going to do, you just submit to it. You have no voice, you have no say-so. Because that's what God says in there. But God said, you will follow his lead. So what is the lead of the husband? Wives, to love you like Christ loves the church. That's the lead the woman follows. A husband's role and responsibility in the family unit is to love his wife like Christ loves the church. He is to love them sacrificially. He's the one who washed the apostles' feet. He's the one who extended his hand to little children when the apostles wanted them all to leave and scatter. He's to go forsake those little kids. There's a ministry there I have with them. And he blessed those little kids. He's the one who went in when his rivals were saying things about women in adultery or tax collectors. He's the one who stood up for what was right in the community. He was the voice. He's the one who loved us so much that he gave himself so that we wouldn't have to. That's how Christ loved the church. Absolute love. Absolute forgiveness. Right? Sacrifice. We, as a church, men and women together, we submit to Christ. That's what we do. We submit to his love. We want to be his disciple. We want to follow after him. That is how a wife is supposed to submit to a husband. Because a husband is supposed to be Christ-like. Not dictator-like. Not, you understand? It should be an easy thing to rule over you because of his intense love that he has for you. That's the scripture that I read. Wives and the family and their roles. Interesting how much leeway a wife had in some people's homes, even back then. Proverb 31 has the wife of a noble character. And I kind of wanted to end the battle of the sexes with this proverb. A wife of noble character, who can find one? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her, and he lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it is still night. She provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. This is the part that's awesome. She considers a field and buys it, and out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. You know, in the Old Testament, you got this thought that a woman doesn't do anything but, stay in a tent and clean and cook, right? But apparently this man's wife has been given, everything that she desires, whatever, because he sees her worth and her value. That she's not just this, that she's all of this. And so she's the one that looks at a field and buys it, not the husband. Not that he hasn't bought some of it, but she has the ability to and the authority to do that. And not only that, she takes the proceeds, the profits, and doesn't just turn them over, but she turns an even greater profit by deciding what to plant, a vineyard, and then some, okay? So it seems like she's an entrepreneur, and she's elevated by that. She's looked up and worshiped for that. She works vigorously. Her trading is profitable. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. She doesn't just look at her dwellings and her home and her family and her husband and her children. She goes around and she sees, Lord, where can I minister in my community? That's her. She looks at the people around her. They don't have to be related to her or the small ministry of just her family. God's given her the whole world, just like he's given man. And so she sees where people are needy throughout the world. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed. Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. That's not reflective necessarily on just who he is. It is reflective on what his wife made him. His wife who followed after him. His wife who supported him, who built him up. All these men at the city gate, these elders at the city gate, gave him a place at the city gate of high honor. Doesn't appear necessarily that it's all because of him, but a great deal has to do with his wife. His wife got him that position. And it's almost a feeling, if you read this, and if you really read this, there's a bit of jealousy and envy of these other men at the gate who wish they had the same relationship with their wife that he has with his relationship. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her home. She does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also praises her. And this is in quotations. So this is what the husband says about his wife to all these elders. And to his wife. Sometimes the wife doesn't get to hear this. He says, many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who would fear the Lord, she will always be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate.